Hello, hello. Yes, I'm in my living room, guys. How are you? How are you? Okay, so I want to talk to you guys real quick. I am not going to be on here long. This is just a tip of the week. Yeah, right, Raven. When is it that I don't talk? IEP. Get me started and I'm off, right? I actually had my own child's IEP today. You know, it's crazy. I cry a lot. All right. My crazy self cries during my own child's IEP. Yes, I do. Okay. It's the weirdest thing. I think I just get really emotional. I'm like every other parent, I'm not an advocate at that time. I'm a parent. And so it can be very difficult. We didn't have a difficult IEP, but I just get emotional. And it's just the weirdest thing to me that still all these years later, I still get super emotional. But I think it's because I have PTSD from everything I was put through and the hell I was put through by the district years ago. So, with that said, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Raven Woods. I'm the CEO and founder of Autism Mama Rocks IEP, and I help parents like you become knowledgeable and confident in becoming the CEO of their IEP meeting. Hi, Bill. How are you? Post a 1 below if it's your first through third time catching me live. Post a 2 below if you are a oldie but goodie. You guys know what to do. I got my notes in front of me. Okay, we're going to talk eligibility categories today. Eligibility categories, okay? Believe it or not, it is the truth that eligibility categories, believe it or not, dictate your child's IEP. Per idea, are they supposed to? Absolutely not. Are they supposed to dictate how much services your child gets? Are they supposed to dictate what placement your child has? Are they supposed to dictate anything else within the IEP? No. Okay. Hi, Tess. Hi, Donna. How are you? But I'm sorry to tell you, it does. Okay. Um, they'll say it doesn't, but it does. And I'll tell you, it really stood out to me this year. I'll tell you why. So I fought for a lot of eligibility categories this year to be different or to be added on to. Okay. So I had lots of children, believe it or not, who had autism or, an SLD, which is a specific learning disability. Okay. So don't get SLD and SLI mixed up. So you got specific learning disability. That's your dysgraphia, your dyslexia, things like that. And then you have your SLI, which is your speech and language impairment. Okay. So, a lot of children also have OHI, which is other health impairments. That's where, your anxiety and your ADHD and things like that live. Okay. And a lot of times my children with autism have an SLI, okay, a speech and language impairment. But for some reason, school districts don't want to put that down as a second disability category. Why is that? Hmm? And then when you want to fight it, they will argue, no, it's because of the autism that causes them to have a speech and language impairment. So it's part of the autism. Mhm. So it's part of the autism. Okay. So if we all had this cure for autism, we would, more than likely find it, just like we would for cancer or anything else. And usually that falls within the doctor category. Um, and I'm an educated educator, but no way in hell would I ever say that autism is why a child has a speech and language impairment or has a speech and language delay in any way, shape, or form, because we have multiple different disabilities that can affect the speech, communication, or anything else, or not. I cannot tell you how many autistic children I know who speak fluent English, Spanish, or multiple other languages. I have one child who speaks 4 languages and speaks fluently. So, while autism can contribute and be part of, we all know that, to speech and language delay, impairment, etc. We are not able, even doctors are not. Oh, do I have something funny to say? Okay, Kim. um, so we cannot say that because none of us know for sure. Okay. Now, can we say more than likely, my child has some difficulty with speech because of the autism? Sure. But we're guessing. And while you can say it and it's just fine, all right, no way will somebody in the school district tell me that my child being in speech or needing speech or having a speech and language impairment is caused by her autism. Okay. They are not qualified in any way, shape, or form to state that. And on top of that, even a responsible doctor would not make a statement like that. Now, they would make a statement like, it could be all those things that I don't want in your IEPs. It could be, it may be caused by the autism. I don't know. But nobody can sit and say what it is. None of us can do it, right? We can't. All right. Our kiddos are so different and so unique that sometimes for us as parents, we're sitting there just trying to catch up on the unique coolness about them. I don't know about your kiddos, but mine is super cool. She drives me crazy sometimes because boy, is she in those teenage years. But at the same time, she teaches me something every day. And so, can I sit and label her and say, "Oh, Skylar, your autism is because, or your speech and language delay. She doesn't really have so much of an impairment anymore." Possibly, she probably would check off the list for that, honestly. But I would not make the statement that it's because of the autism, you know? While as parents, we can still have that moment of more than likely, right? All right. So, with that said, me rambling on with that, you and I know what we think and what we know in regards to our children. So, hear me there. Okay. So, what it is that you know about your child, you are more than likely 150% right. But what I'm saying is, we cannot allow outsiders to come in and reign on our territory. Okay. And what I mean by that is, don't make blanket statements that you don't know the facts or anything else about and or are qualified to make those statements. Okay? So that needs to be nixed immediately. If you ever hear in your IEP because you want to add a category, and it's not a bad thing, guys. Okay. It's not, hi, Kim. Hi, Aaron. Hi, Kim again. Schultz. Hi, Tess and Donna and Bill. Okay. Welcome, welcome. Post a 1 below if it's your first through third time catching me live, 2 below if you're an oldie but goodie. Make sure to tell me where you're from. Okay. So I still have Alaska and New Mexico to make my 50 states. Somebody has got to help me here. I want to hit my 50 states. To have worked in all 50 states, I need to do New Mexico and Alaska. I mean, I haven't even heard anything about Alaska in IEPs. New Mexico, I haven't heard much about either, but that could just be there's fewer people there. I don't know. But those are 2 states, y'all. 2 states left. All right, so here's the deal. Let's just talk about speech and language impairment. All right. That's a big one that goes hand in hand with autism. All right. There is a checklist that each child needs to we need to check the box. This is the one thing, because I'm so against box checking. Like their IEP programs that they have. Oh, we don't have that to add, so we can't add that. Oh, yes, you can. You're going to add it in notes, or you can add it to the end of the IEP. I don't care where you put it, but you're going to put it in the IEP because it's required to be in the IEP. So I don't care about your drop down boxes. This is what you tell them. I don't care about your drop down boxes. Your drop down boxes have nothing to do with my child. What program you guys are provided has nothing to do with my child. What program you all are provided should adhere to IDEA, and all those drop down boxes that you talk about that aren't individualized should align with IDEA. But since it doesn't, you will add it into my IEP. All right. And you can put it wherever you want. You can say it needs to be on page 2, but it's on page 8. All right. I don't care where you put it, but it will go into the IEP. Do not let school districts tell you that your child's a drop down box and they can't enter it because it's not in their damn drop down box. Don't get me started on drop down boxes, okay? I don't know about you, but my child is not a drop down box. Okay? Hey, Erin, how are you? All right, so here we go. Speech and language impairment, huge one. Okay, if your child has any type of delay in speech, all right, and they have speech therapy, more than likely, probably less than they're supposed to get, all right, then more than likely they do have a speech and language impairment. Believe it or not, those check boxes are not that complicated. All right. Does the child have difficulty with articulation, with expressive language, with receptive language, with pragmatics? Okay. It doesn't have to be all of them. It could be one of them. Because if you think about it, expressive is how they express themselves, how they're going to communicate with the community and the world. That is important. All right. Receptive, that is how they're taking the world in, which is just as important. How they're taking information in, how they're retaining that information and processing it in order for it to go out, right? And then we have pragmatics, which is communication, all right, with anybody, okay, with each other. And then, of course, articulation, the way in which the sound sounds, okay, the words sound, all right. And speech and language impairment is a big one, all right. OHI, all right. This is a really generalized one, to be quite honest. And all your child to be under OHI, sometimes your child does have to have a physical or a doctor's note, etc., stating that they have anxiety, that they have ADHD, that they have some sort of medical disability, because typically OHI falls under that category. And those different disabilities do have to have a medical documentation, if you will. I just had to do it in Texas with a client. Her child has a specific disease, and this has to be documented into the IEP, but they can't put that there because it's not one of the 13 disability categories, if you will, but would fall under OHI, but also it falls under just what it is. Okay. And that is important to remember. Okay. Disability categories aren't supposed to affect your child and the services that they get, but they do. Okay. Many times, school districts will say things along the lines of, well, the goals and the services that are already in play are already addressing the child's needs. Or they'll say things like, um, the goals that are in place right now do not need any services, more services to be added in order to meet them or to meet the child's impact of disability and to provide faith. Um, I could go on and on about the different types of excuses that they'll give you. Um, but you have to know what to say, how to say it, and be quick. All right. Let me give you an example. I didn't turn my notifications off, Kim, so everybody just heard your ding. It's fine. Um, so one of the important things I want to tell you is what happened yesterday. All right. So yesterday I was in an IEP meeting and it was, when I was in my 20s, I was a pretty damn good bullshitter. I think many of us are, right? Um, yeah. Who's this person that said, "Hey, sorry, didn't call back"? Tell me who you are. You gotta click. Don't forget, guys, you gotta click the link. Um, Crap, what does it say? It's like, I think it's put on the group, y'all. I think it's on the group. It's like, oh, hey. Yeah, I'll call you afterward. So yeah, I'm talking about you. So I was in this IEP meeting yesterday, and I was kind of joking with the parent and saying that I mean, she knew me in my 20s, but I mean, a lot of us are bullshitters in our 20s, right? I mean, I definitely had my fair share of bullshit come out of my mouth. And so, and being in IEP meetings, y'all, I mean, you start just hearing it all the time. It becomes this revolving door of bullshit, all right? And so they first wanted to lie. I mean, it was blatant lies. It was we're not talking about things that they could possibly slide on by with, and in their bullshit. No, 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 no. It was so obvious that you didn't want to do anything but say y'all are just full of shit. That's what I wanted to say. Okay? Um that's how bad it was. All right. So this is a child that needs to be in general education. I mean, there's nothing wrong with her at all. She's adorable. She's cute. She just has a specific learning disability. That is it. More than likely, she has dyslexia or something along those lines. Something that will, with the right support, she'll be able to catch up in no time. Okay. And then having, a loving family and everything else, of course, supports that. Right. I believe wholeheartedly that the more you love on your children and let them know that, they're smart and you believe in them and, you have that faith and trust that they're going to thrive. You know what I mean? That's why I tell my parents, when you first find out about your child's disability or diagnosis, give yourself, I know it's hard, but 24 to 48 hours to feel sorry for yourself and then get the hell over it and support them, believe in them, and everything else. Believe me, I went through it. I know it was 15 years ago, but I know what it's like. I know how hard it is. But all these years later, I can tell you that the more I put, thank you, Aaron. I appreciate it. There's that link, y'all. So if I can't see your name, that's why. That's what you got to click, Mindy. That once you get over that, what's going to happen? Is my child going to be able to live on their own? Are they going to be able to, live in today's society and not be made fun of, and all the 50 million things that go through our head when our children are diagnosed with anything, really, um when parents, have kids, we had this belief that they had to have, 10 fingers, 10 toes, and just in this perfect condition, right? And, reality, is not like that. And, we're given what we can handle. And we're also given, something that is going to bring light and brightness into our life. And we just may not know it yet. And so it's so important to get over that feeling of anguish and flip it into everything positive that you can possibly think of, because that is what is going to have your child thrive, is your belief in them. Sky came home today when I had her IEP meeting. Okay. Today was her IEP meeting. Yes, I cried. And yes, I get emotional. And I'm a mom when I have her IEP meeting. I'm not my crazy self in her IEP meeting because all those feelings just come to the surface. I'm sure many of you can understand that and understand, all the stuff that we go through when it comes to IEPs. And so it just comes to the surface. I'm just as discombobulated as any other parent during their child's IEP. All right. You would never think I was an advocate. I'm just kidding. You would, but you wouldn't, if that makes sense, because I'm a lot more humanly and emotional, and I get emotionally upset versus, in an IEP meeting, I don't put up with BS at all. I'm your pretty assertive aggressive advocate, but in my own it's like it's different, right? And but because of those feelings is why I feel I can help you all so much, because of that passion and love and care and full understanding of what it is that we all as parents go through. Obviously, we don't know each other's individual situations, but those feelings that we have are so real and so natural. And so many of us are going through them and have felt them and are feeling them and are going to feel them for a long time as we go through this IEP career that we are in this journey and in this ride on. And, we have to just stick together. But the biggest thing, guys, is believe in your kiddos, because when Sky came home, I said to her, I said, Mom will not do anything but fight for you and to make sure you have awesome services, because that was the main thing we were talking about today. So, awesome services, and that you are in amazing care and you have awesome people teaching you. And this is how I'm saying it to her. And when I said awesome services and that I'll do whatever it takes to make sure that she has the best, you know what she said? She started laughing and saying, "Yes, I'm gonna have the best services." So, and as she was younger, I spoke a lot. She saw the things I went through. She didn't fully understand, but she saw what I was doing. And I believe that in her heart of hearts, she knows, and just, hadn't really put it together. And so in leading to what I'm getting at with this one child is, when you straight up lie like that when someone's asking you a question, which was, we asked for the child to go into general education, you then put the child in a collaborative class. Okay, they're called different things, guys. Collaborative. They tried to they tried to call it LRE or inclusion. I was like, and then they said to me, "I think we might have a vocabulary mix up here," like as if I was confused with the vocabulary. Dude, I provide people vocabulary. Don't go talking to me about vocabulary. Okay. You all are the problem here because you don't obviously know what an inclusion is, which was really ridiculous. And then they wanted to lie their way through the fact that they were not transparent with the parents. The parents wanted the child in a gen ed classroom because she was put in a more restrictive classroom for no apparent reason. She had never been in a gen ed classroom. They hadn't even tried her in a gen ed classroom. This child has zero behaviors and just has learning disabilities. And they want to sit and bullshit their way through the fact that they put her in basically a half and half class, which are good classes for certain students. But the thing is it wasn't about the half and half class, which, like, for example, in New York, they have a class that has a special ed teacher and a gen ed teacher, and, it's split, and each of them teach, et cetera, et cetera. Well, different schools have different things where they combine the children and then they do things with the special education classroom and the teacher, et cetera. But that is not your typical general education classroom. Okay. So that is what we asked for. That is what they said they were doing. That is not what they did. And then they tried to bullshit their way through it, trying to state that it was, when we knew all good and well that it wasn't. And then they were so busy lying that they caught themselves up and straight up told us that it wasn't. I'm not sure if it was purposeful or not. I don't think so. But I'm just like, really? Just tell the parents. I mean, had they said, "Hey, are you guys cool with us putting her in a split classroom so that she still gets that extra support?" Then at least the parents would have been able to make a decision based on the facts. They weren't even given that opportunity because they went ahead and just did it. The mom found out at, what is it, the back to school night when you go for the first time and meet the teacher. And this, the the teacher who the child loves the special ed teacher. Nothing wrong with them at all. However, what he said though was a bit odd, which was, and it's not something that a teacher would typically say, which is, your child could be, maybe, in, how would I say it? In danger? It could be a safety issue. I don't know, because she's influenced by other kids in the class. Now, mind you, our children, most of them, have brothers or sisters. Our children are socialized as much as possible. Our children are, the goal is to always have them in general education. How is it a safety issue to put a child in general education and the child is going to mimic behaviors, good or bad, in the general education classroom? And all of a sudden, that's going to be a safety issue for this child. What makes this child any more special than the other kids? I'm just being honest. She's not. She's just as special as all those other children. So if she's in danger and there's a safety issue, why didn't you tell all those other parents that there's a safety issue? Why are you just telling this parent? Because her child has special needs? Because you don't want her in the class? What is it? It's just an odd thing to say. Okay, children are going to mimic other behaviors, good and bad. It is up to you, the teacher, and us parents, to teach our children right from wrong. But as far as being influenced, shit. She's in kindergarten. That's the least of my worries. I'm worried about high school, middle school, things she's going to hear later. The last thing I'm worried about is what she's going to see in kindergarten. But according to this teacher, there's a safety issue. Now, when we asked what the safety issue was, you ready for this? The safety issue, guys, was really serious, he said. It was much more serious than other behaviors. You ready for it? She ran away from the teacher. She was in the classroom and the teacher was calling her, and she ran away from the teacher. That's the safety behavior. I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, I ran away from my grandma, all right? Back when we got switches, all right? She would pull off a branch, and if I was bad, I got the switch, okay? And I remember here's some 411, y'all. I'll never forget my mama saying to me, all right, because I said, I'm not getting the switch. I'm not, no, I'm not getting the switch. You're not spanking my butt with the switch. So I ran off to go play with my friends. I was like 7 or 8, guys. All right. And I remember this story. You know how you can just think back and you remember certain things in your childhood? And I remember what she said to me too. She said, "That's all right. The switch should be here when you get back." So I ran away. I don't have any special needs. I have 2 other children. They would run at the pool. Oh my god. They would run away from me all the time and go jump in the pool, and it would take me an hour to get everybody out of the pool so that we could go home because they would run away. "No, we don't wanna go home. Nope, 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 nope." And they would go and run, and they would go jump in the deep end or go jump in the pool, and they would go float in the middle of the pool purposefully knowing that I wasn't gonna get in the pool so that we didn't have to go home. So, I'm not sure how that is dangerous behavior. I believe it's age appropriate, but that was dangerous behavior. Okay. Okay. Now that we got past that one, more bullshit still came. And we started off with the class, then we went to the the safety issue. That was a big safety issue, guys. I'm thinking like my kiddos that are jumping off the AC units, okay, that are flipping desks and they're going and flying in the air. All right. My kiddos who have sensory regulation needs and need to be tightened and in a weighted vest or blanket or just being held so that there's that compression or they can hurt themselves or others. That's what I'm thinking in regards to safety issues and the accommodations that need to go in place in order to support my kiddos that have the need and a safety issue could arise. But this teacher wanted to tell mom at back to school night that, oh, she's doing good in the class, but, there could be a safety issue. She ran away from me. Okay. Then we move on to services. Now this one took the cake. All right. If there's a lot of things that are pet peeves for me. There are. There's things that will get me going. All right. As you guys know, one of them is just I dare you to tell me that a child who very obviously has needs in speech or just any obvious it could be any obvious need, but let's just go with speech because that's been recent. You guys know I had one hell of a year with this speech stuff. And, it's frustrating because if you can see it, I can see it. Anybody on the street would be able to see it if they had a conversation. And you want to sit and tell me, all right, that you're going to defer to the doctor in occupational therapy or speech, etc. All right, in reference to this, it actually was OT, but let's just go with it for a second. As if they're more intelligent than me having a master's or anybody at the table having a master's. Mom has a master's because they have a doctorate in OT. I don't give a shit. All right. Now, the only thing that I respect a doctor for is they can diagnose and hopefully save lives and hopefully do all those things that we want them to do. Okay. But when there's a reference like that, as if it's a downgrade to somebody else, that's not cool. Number one. Number two, I don't put up with that. All right. Because many times I know more than them, not in regards to, say, specifically to the occupational therapy, because I am not a doctor in occupational therapy. But guess what? I know the child more than you. So that is where the expertise comes in. And for some reason, we're getting twisted here. All right. There's so many different school districts that are really going after this and don't put up with it. Okay. Think about it. Why do children have IEPs? Tell me, somebody. If you're on here, though, by the way, post a 1 below if it's your first through third time catching me live, a 2 below if you're an oldie but goodie, okay? Tell me where you're from, all right? The 2 states I still need to do is New Mexico and Alaska for me to have 50 states that I have worked in. Kind of exciting, but you know. All right, so here's why it ticks me off. I could care less if somebody has their doctorate in OT or speech or whatever the heck else you choose to get your doctorate in. More power to you. All right. But I have the same thought process as I do when it comes to evaluations. All right. And the thought process is as follows. Okay. Follow me here because you're going to repeat this. All right. I don't care who at this table you think is an expert in rocket science. I don't care. What I care about is my child. I said this today about my own child. That's the only thing I care about here. We are here about my child and my child's needs, and that's all I care about. So you could have a degree in rocket science, you could have a degree, I don't care, because you don't have a degree in my child. So unless you have a degree in my child, don't try to tell me that you know more than me. That's number 1. And number 2, don't act like because you have book smarts that you know my child better than me, or that we should defer to you because you have book smarts, because you don't have book smarts in regards to my child. All right. It goes back to the saying. All right. And here's a statistic for you. All right. Can't even say statistic. All right. Here's a statistic for you. Did you know that most A students work under C students? Yep. Total fact. Total fact. Most A students work under C students. Why? Because most C students are actually more diverse and more are better at multitasking and are better at, different things, sports and grades and smart. Doesn't make them because they get C's or B's, they're not as smart. They're just choosing, like my son, he got B's and C's, but guess what? He was a rock star in football. So would I rather him get B's and C's and, have fun in football and be kind of well-rounded? Absolutely. But then my oldest daughter, she was book smart and super, super smart and in the, you know, high classes and, honor classes and, advanced classes and all of that. Um, and all children are different, you know, but the fact is that most A students work under C students. Okay. And so it wasn't an insult to any of us, okay? It was more like why did the director make that statement, you know? Because honestly, it just made her look like an idiot. And, because I made a comment about it, and I don't care I really don't care what your degree is. I don't care if you have no degree, because guess what? That person's going to know their child better than someone with a PhD. All right. And it's the same thing with experience. I believe, I don't know about you, everybody's has their opinions, but you have to have knowledge, of course, but experience, I believe, outweighs that, because you're going to gain knowledge with your experience, and experience gives you the hands-on and the experience of doing what it is that you went to school to do, or whatever the case may be. All right. So when you have experience with my child, when you have that time and effort that you've put into my child in order to learn them, and can actually tell me something about my child, like many people on my child's team can, service providers, and have worked with her for years, then don't talk to me about your expertise. And this is to any service provider out there. Watch what you say to parents because you're going to piss them off. Okay. And that's probably what maybe you're not trying to do, but you are, because those parents know better than you. All right. You're book smart in speech therapy and all the methodology and the things that go with that and the wording and the verbiage and all these things. But guess what? That does not, it's kind of like you have a speech therapist. All right. But that speech therapist has no experience with a child with autism. That ain't going to do the child any good. Because you can be a speech therapist all you want. I had reading therapists work with my child, but they had no experience with autism or behavior issues. So guess what? It was a complete unproductive, screwed up mess because the person had no clue how to work with my child, but they got a master's degree in reading. Do you see the problems here? Schools need to hear this. They need to process it. They need to understand and digest the fact that they are not the experts in the child. They need to be open to suggestions and be part of what is called a team versus dictatorship. All right? It ain't a dictatorship. You ain't dictating to me about my child. That's for freaking sure. So you all need to get that same attitude, okay? Because I cannot tell you how many parents I talk to who say, I trusted them. I thought they would do what was best. I thought they were going to do right by my child. They're the school. They're this person and that person. And how could they let my child down? I don't know. They did, though. Don't ask me why. Happens every day. I'm unemotional. I don't have any emotion to it anymore. Happens every day. It's like, huh? Yeah, let's do something about it. That's how I feel. You know, when I hear it from parents now, it's like they're devastated. Devastated. And I'm like, okay, yeah. Yep, happens all the time. I'm like, I'm not heartless. I'm not heartless. I'm not heartless. I'm not heartless. But it's like when you hear it every freaking day, you're just like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Mhm. No big deal. And when I answer like that, here's the funniest part. Here's the funniest part. When I answer like that, they're like, "Do you not hear that often? Is that not something you hear?" I'm like, "No, no, no, no. I hear it so much that I'm just immune to it. I can't even feel anymore when it comes to wouldn't they want to do what's best for my child? Wouldn't they want to put my child in services? Wouldn't they want to put my child in speech therapy? I mean, she or he is nonverbal. Why wouldn't they want to do that? No clue. Can't answer that one for you. I don't think anybody can. I'm not in their minds. I have no idea. No clue. But I was with you. I get it. I said the same thing. How could somebody be in the educational field and not do what's best for my child? Oh God, guys, wait till you hear what I got in store for you for topics of conversation here. I got some good stuff for you. Real good stuff. My fave is reading, right? Because that's another thing I get. Oh yeah, my child can read. She's doing pretty good. It's just the comprehension part, but yeah, I mean, she can read. She's doing really good. I'm like, what do you mean the comprehension part? Like, what do you mean that she can read really good? What does that mean? She's just doing great. I mean, the teacher's saying that, she's reading the fourth grade level books, fourth grade child. She's doing really good with the fluency and the words and the decoding. And when I hear her read here at home, she's doing really great. I'm just really glad about that. And I think the IEP is doing pretty well. And, I just need some support in, getting more services. This is what I hear. getting more services and, just making sure that, she gets everything that she needs. But, reading, I think her IEP is pretty good. And I think us, and then I'll say, well, what about the goals? They're good too, and I think they're pretty good. I agreed to them, and, I really like them. And, her reading's really well. And I'm just really glad that she is making progress. So here I go saying, oh, how do you know she's making progress? Oh, because the teacher's letting me know, and, she's keeping communication up with me, and, um, we talk back and forth on the dojo, and yeah, it's doing good. Um, okay. And what about reading again? Tell me about reading. How do you know that she's doing so good in reading? Oh, she's reading fluently, and okay, all those things that she was just saying. So then I say, tell me this. So if I read her a book, any book, and then asked 5 questions in regards to the book, would she be able to answer all 5 questions in regards to the book after I read it? No, probably not. I said, well, then she can't read. What do you mean? Well, if they read or you read, and then you ask, say, 4 or 5 questions in regards to either what was read to them or what they read, and they have no idea how to answer those questions, then they can't read. Reading is comprehension. Reading is language knowledge. Reading is word recognition. Word recognition equals language knowledge equals reading comprehension. Reading comprehension is reading. All right. You don't half-assed ride a bike. I always associate riding a bike and reading because they're very alike. You don't just pick up a book and read, just like you don't just jump on a bike and ride. There's a process. All right. That process has to happen appropriately, or they're not going to be able to do one or the other appropriately or good enough in order to succeed. If they just hop on and they're all over the place wobbly and they can't steer and they're all over the place, then they're going to crash, right? Or if you have a child that just picks up a book and starts to read and they have awesome fluency. They can read every freaking word. They can say what that word is, horse, house, the horse, house, et cetera, and read beautifully, no hiccups. But then you're like, so what did you read about? What type of animal? Where did the horse live? Was the horse big or was the horse small? And this is small things. If they can't respond, then they didn't understand what it is they read or was read to them. They didn't process it. They didn't read. But you're told all the time, oh yeah, they can read, they can read, they can read, they can read. Oh yeah, they're great. They are beautiful. They sound beautiful. Pet peeve. All right, let's go back to our topic. I told you I couldn't talk for a short period of time. Be mindful of your categories. All right. As I was moving towards this child and they were trying to be insulting on how they were going to defer to this amazingly intelligent, doctor in occupational therapy, then she is giving her 2 cents, her doctorate level expertise opinion. And I'm not making fun of the fact that she's a doctor. I'm more making fun of the fact that they think because she's a doctor, she has expertise in the child, because she doesn't. And so that's what annoys me. Not the degree, not her expertise in what she has her expertise in. It's the expertise and area in which she has the expertise that we want to utilize in order to support our children. We don't think that they're going to see a know-it-all. I don't want my child with a know-it-all. I want my child with somebody that's going to support them and encourage them and to help them learn, or if it's a service, provide that service in order for them to make progress. I don't want a know-it-all. Rocco! My dog's like whining because he wants to come in. All right. So she tries to say that push-in services, another pet peeve, is the best thing for this child. Why? How is push-in service for 15 minutes? 15 minutes, 15 minutes, 15 minutes. 15 minutes. What the hell can you accomplish in 15 minutes? I can't even wash dishes in 15 minutes. I hate washing dishes. I can't even like really fold laundry in 15 minutes. I hate folding laundry too. I don't get, other than children who have pretty severe disabilities when it comes to focus and retention, where you can do 15 minutes but spread it out so they still get 30 minutes, but it's just separate. Which with children with special needs, you have to get creative, which schools typically don't. And it's important to be pliable, and be able to work with what's given to you and be open to change. And if you're not, which I've found to be very prominent with staff members, not being open to change is where problems are starting to arise. Just like this reading wars, just like the reading issues that are going on today, just like the enormous amount of compensatory services that are having to be given. And the only person and people that are suffering due to compensatory services is the child. Believe it or not, us thinking, oh, we're going to get our children compensatory services, that's going to be awesome. Yeah, it's awesome that we're getting our children the compensatory services and the services that they're owed and they deserve. However, what is that doing? It's taking up time that they could be playing, that they could be doing things that they want to do versus having to make up services and education that they should have already gotten during school hours. Now they're having to go above and beyond because you have to work with the school district in order to get compensatory services and it be at a reasonable time, and them not miss out on certain services that they already have, them not miss out on certain classes that they're already in. And it becomes this clustered mess. So when we look at having to give children compensatory services, that is not a good thing. We think, yes, I got compensatory services. Woohoo! Shit, when's my child going to be doing that? At 5 o'clock at night? Doesn't sound good to me. You got to think about that stuff. I tell parents, get mad. Get freaking mad, people. You got to get mad. That's what I said to my parents. Get mad. Just get mad. Because not because it's gonna fix anything, because it's not. But until you're mad, typically we don't take action. And action has to be taken before change happens. People take action when they're mad. Whether it's smart or not smart, they take action. Most of the time it's not smart, but they take action. So we have to be mindful of the things that are happening here so that we can be educated in how we make some decisions when it comes to our kids. Because if I'm going after compensatory services, I'm good and pissed off. I am way past the point of trying to negotiate with me. Because if I'm asking for compensatory services, that means you really effed the heck up. And now the child has to suffer and go and have additional support on top of what they already have because of you. I'm mad at that point. Okay? Gotta charge my computer. So, and if I'm mad, it's not good. All right? And your life is going to be rough. All right? Ask my husband. No, I'm just kidding. If you piss me off like that because you're not giving a child what they need and compensatory services have to be requested, you're past the point of kissing my butt. All right? That's just truth. All right, because we all know sometimes when we're good and mad and the school district actually, oh my God, she's mad. She's never gotten mad before. And that's not me. But if it was you and you don't normally get mad and then all of a sudden you get mad, they're going to be like in shock. And so all of a sudden they may like, try to swim back and, okay, well, what can we do to, hush her up for a hot minute? Because that's all it is. Let me hush her up. Let me pet her, let her get her start to purring again. And then we, go in for the attack again. Then get her start to purring again and then go back in for the attack. That's what it feels like, And there comes a time where you got to put your foot down. All right. So when you want to come to me and say 15 minutes of push-in services, expect to get the kiss my A. Okay. Just expect it. Yep. That's the kind of advocate I am. Don't call me if you don't want that because I don't do 15 minutes of push-in services. All right. When I even consider push-in services, I'll tell you when. That child better be ready to kind of opt out of services. Speech, OT, whatever. All right. Because and I will argue any day with an occupational therapist, a speech therapist, whomever. All right. Because I'm an educator. I got the smarts and I will have a healthy debate with you in regards to this. Because what people don't think about, because they're so focused on the deficit, which that is why we have an IEP, the impact of disability. However, when it comes to push-in services, you're taking it outside the realm of the disability category because you're affecting others. All right. So we can't just look at the child anymore. You cannot, my dogs may start barking because my husband's getting ready to be home. But you cannot just look at your child if you're looking at push-in services. It is no longer about your child. Now they'll make it about your child. Oh, we got to generalize it. We have to push in because we want to keep them in that classroom. We want them to sit pretty, and we will go in and we will go in at the right time and we will help them write. How do you know what time that's at? How do you know they were always writing at 1 o'clock? Huh? Hmm. So unless you can guarantee me that you're going to go into that classroom every single time that they're writing, don't talk to me about push-in services. Don't even bring it up. Okay? It will never be acceptable. I will fight you to the end. You will want to shoot me with a BB gun by the time I'm done with you. Literally. Because push-in services are the dumbest shit ever. Here's the biggest culprit with push-in services. You ready? Are you ready? Because I'm all about generalizing. But here's the problem. Is if you don't give anybody. It could be you, me, anybody, a dog. Okay. Think about it. Dogs learn from being taught. Children learn, you learn, I learn from being taught what the right thing, wrong thing to do is, whatever. We still screw up, but that's how we learn, by doing, by being taught, by, the experiences we experience, etc. All right. But you cannot take a child, and I encourage anybody, please, if you are on here and you disagree, I am all for a healthy debate. Okay. It will not get nasty with me. I am all for a healthy debate. I'm very passionate about what I do. But if somebody disagrees, I encourage them to step up and debate this with me. A healthy, educated debate, not nastiness. So if that's you, please feel free. I would love to hear somebody else's opinion on this. But in my experience in 16 plus years, push-in services does more of a disservice than a service. The number one reason is mental health. Number one reason. The number one reason that is always not considered. It's never considered. When do you hear someone talk about push-in services, a speech therapist or occupational therapist, where they talk about the child's mental health and how it could impact them mentally? When? Tell me when you hear that. I'm waiting. I'll wait. I'm sure I'll wait all day, but I'll wait. I'll wait. Let me know. Or are we still waiting? Are we still waiting? Oh, we're still waiting. It affects a child's mental health many times. And the other times, we typically don't know, and more than likely will never know. When you have another adult push in, which is the speech therapist or occupational therapist will push in and go in. Basically, push in means go into the classroom. All right. And basically do the service, because a lot of them will brag and say, oh, it's still 1-to-1. It's 1-to-1. No, it ain't. It's 1-to-20. That's what it is. All right. It ain't 1-to-1. All right. You may be sitting by my child, but it's 1-to-20, because none of those other kids are paying attention anymore, because you're 1-to-1 with my child and they want to be part of that. Most of the time, if it's elementary school, which is where they do push-in services, then guess what? Those kids are curious. They want to know, why are you getting 1-to-1 attention? I don't get 1-to-1 attention. I want 1-to-1 attention. How come she gets 1-to-1 attention? How come she gets to work with Miss So-and-so? Miss So-and-so is so nice. She gets candy. How come we don't get candy? How come we don't get rewards? That's not fair. That's not fair. Erin got candy. She got My Little Pony. And I got to sit here and listen to teacher. That's not fair. Now, think about all those things that really truly happen in a classroom. You push in, you sit with the child, say you're doing the writing, say you're doing, speech. How the hell are you going to go do speech and not embarrass that child in the classroom with 18 to 30 other kids? How? That I've heard kids tell me, I felt stupid. I felt singled out. I felt sad. I had a little boy, he couldn't really express his feelings, and he said, "It made me really mad." And I don't think it really made him mad. I think it made him embarrassed, because mad and embarrassment kind of go hand in hand a lot of times. And mom and I weren't really sure, but we thought it was more like on the embarrassment side than the mad side. But either way, let's just go with mad. All right. How productive is it going to be with push-in services that they only do typically for 15, maybe 30 minutes? That's if you're lucky. All right. How's that going to be productive with a child that you're more than likely that, and a lot of times they can't verbalize it. That's the worst part. That is the worst part. In my mind, if you're going to do push-in services, at least have that child be able to fully speak so that they can say, this makes me embarrassed. I don't want this. Give them the choice. They should have the choice. If they want you to come into the classroom and embarrass them, not purposely, it's not purposeful. Okay? I don't think a speech therapist or occupational therapist goes into the classroom and purposely embarrasses a child. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it just does. It embarrasses them. It makes them feel singled out. No child wants to be that singled out child. All right. We have children with special needs. We want them to feel a part of, we want them to be included. We want them to feel as if they are just like every freaking buddy else. So, why the hell would you suggest pushing into a general education classroom to work specifically with my child, singling her out? I'm just saying her, but I'm not talking about my child. I'm just saying in general. How is that productive for 15 freaking minutes? That it can't do anything productive in 15 minutes anyway. You got to think about these things, guys. Because when I say that to, this is what they did when I did this yesterday. They didn't say shit. Not a damn thing. Nothing. What do you say to that? Have y'all thought about the child's mental health? Do you know how the child feels when you push in? Are they embarrassed? Any service push in or not makes the kids feel bad. Don't think for 1 second them other kids don't know what. Yeah. Who is this? Who said this? I can't see your name. 100% agree. So Mindy just told you the rest. She said, in addition, oh yeah, they did this to us yesterday. In addition to pushing in, we were told that that they didn't want to provide services because they didn't want to take her out of library and music and art. I know I need to be nice. I know I need to be nice. I know I need to be nice. But I mean, is that somebody that's educated that would say something like that? I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Bad Raven. Do not say bad things. Think positive. Think happy thoughts. Think happy thoughts. Think happy thoughts. They were just not thinking when they said that. They were just not thinking when they said that. Think happy thoughts. That's what I have to tell myself. I have to talk to myself and make myself not feel crazy because that's how they make me. They make me crazy because that is how I feel when I'm dealing with stupidity. Oh, hey, Cynthia, how are you? Like, I cannot do stupidity. I can't. Intentional stupidity. If you don't know, you don't know what you don't know. Obviously, we all don't know things. But just blatant stupidity, I don't have tolerance for that. I just don't. Especially when it comes to a child. All right? Don't work with them if you don't have the sense to do what's right for them. It's simple thought process here. Okay? Don't work with them if you can't make educated, proper decisions in regards to their education. If not, it is called neglect and it's called educational harm. That is what they are providing to your children when they suggest stupidity. Okay? It is the same thing as if you left your child at home at 5 years old. That was just a plain stupid freaking move, right? Same thing with this. You want to go and push in and possibly ruin that child's self-esteem, self-worth, and feeling of being. I cannot tell you how many kiddos I that they get to know me and they talk to me, and you know the older they are, usually the 7, 8 year olds are the ones that are the most open and funny. 7, 8, 9, the older you get, boy, you get all kinds of things come out of their mouths. But they will tell you things as you get to know them. Just because they may not be very verbal at school, once they get to know, a lot of our kiddos get to know people, they warm up, right? And I can tell you, I have not met many children who can talk that have said, "Oh, yeah, I love it when they come in and work with me one-on-one in the general education classroom to make me feel singled out among 20 plus kids and the only one that's getting their hands held so that they can write properly, or is being told to watch my mouth because I need to say things in a more articulate way." Can you imagine how embarrassing that is? That is why direct one-to-one instruction is what is needed. Why? Because we have to have a foundation in order to build upon it, in order to go and generalize it. And then when we generalize it, the teacher should be the one consulting with the therapist that still sees the child individually by themselves. They connect and they talk and they collaborate so that the child doesn't feel singled out, then incorporate certain things, not being the speech or OT, but incorporate certain things that is talked about between the two of them into the child's daily day, during a period, during a class, whenever it's going to support them the most. A teacher is not, it is not their job to sit and provide OT and speech, but they are actually really good at the generalized part because it actually helps all the children in the classroom. All right. And believe it or not, accommodations for one child doesn't have to be singled out because all accommodations actually support all children. Pretty clever, you know? So, um, any type of support supports children. There's nothing wrong with a support. There's nothing wrong with the accommodation. So, if an accommodation is helping them do better and a certain child do better, offer it to all the children. Don't single any one person out. Let them be. And if you're going to call it inclusion, then let's leave it at that. If we're going to include, then we're going to include everybody, not one person. Just my thoughts. Okay. Kristen, at first I was upset when they told me they would be pulling my son out of class for all his services. Once they explained reasoning for pull-out services, yeah. Well, thank God they had the sense to tell you, because that hardly ever happens. I can't say never because you just said it, but that never happens, Kristen. It just doesn't happen. Because if they all had the sense that, oh my gosh, if a child needs a service, take them out and go give them the damn service. All right? If they need speech, give them speech. If they need occupational therapy for sensory, for writing, I don't care what it is, go do it. That's what a service is. When you get a service, when your car goes and gets an oil change, you don't go with it. You're not in the car getting an oil change too. You may need one, but when a service is done, it's done individually. That was a good one. That was a good analogy, wasn't it, Mindy? Like taking your car in for a service that goes in by itself. We don't go with it. That was good. Um, I'm good. I took my baby out of school. I can't handle them anymore. Goodness gracious. Goodness gracious. At first I was upset. Okay. Any service makes the kids feel leave class in addition to push in. Yeah. When I taught, I always taught as if all my students needed accommodations. Yeah. All right, guys. Okay. All right. But just going back to the topic. um, yes, eligibility categories, they fight them, especially if you want to add like a SLI to an autism. All right. Why they fight it, I don't know. And the craziest part is it's very obvious that the child qualifies for SLI, speech and language impairment, disability category on top of autism. All right. But then the school just fights it. No, 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 they don't. No, no. I'm like, all right, let's pull out the checklist. Let's do that. Get the checklist. And then all of a sudden their thoughts change. All of a sudden, all of a sudden. I mean, I have a recording. I'm gonna play this for my membership people. Um, it's finally finishing, guys. Thank God. The end of this week. I don't get it. I just don't get it. I don't get the thought process behind some of the things that are done. I just don't. But I guess we'll never know some things, right? All we can do is advocate for our kids, have the sense to know these certain things, and not let them fly. All right? That's where we have to go old school. All right? Old school meaning no. We got punished old school. Okay? So you want to play, make sure you know who you're playing with. That's what smart people do. Okay? If you're going to play, make sure you know who you're playing with. All right? That's what football teams do. They watch each other on TV. Mm-hmm. Why? So they know who they're playing against. Right? You don't think for 1 second school districts don't watch me before they go into an IEP meeting with me? I can tell you for a fact they do because Facebook tells on them. So does TikTok. So I can tell you hands down they do. It's interesting. It's funny. I have an attorney who actually gave it away and said, yeah, I know how, big you are on Linda Mood Bell because they're so good. So, we thought about, you know, providing XYZ for this child because, we know you're a fan. Only reason he knew that is because I talked about it. But bottom line, always remember that. All right. Study your opponent because you don't start off as a team initially. Eventually you get there. That's the goal. Just like our kids. All right. The goal is for them to make awesome progress and be on grade level, right? But we don't start there. All right. Very rarely do we start in this perfect place, or even a semi-perfect place. We always start in this off area, and then we piss them off because we're advocating for our kids, and that pisses them off. And yet they're not concerned about the things that are affecting our children that they're doing based on their expertise. And it's not discounting or not counting the fact that they have degrees, etc., but so does many people in this world. Doesn't make us any type of specific expert in a child. Okay? It makes us an expert in our field. Okay? And that's what they need to understand. Just because you have a degree in this doesn't make you better than the parent at choosing an evaluation if the parent knows about the evaluations. Why? Because they know the child better. So they actually would be able to choose a better evaluation if they're familiar with evaluations than you, even though you have the degree, because they know the child better. So they're able to pick the better assessment that would fit the child. Just saying, just saying, just saying, what do I know? All right. So take that. Know that those disability categories, they matter. All right. You get them into your IEPs. All right. The one state that is a pain in my royal ass and will only put one is Ohio, but they will put into the IEP the other categories. They just won't put it in that disability category area, which is the stupidest thing ever. But whatever, I've gotten past it because they do still put it in. They just don't put it in that one area where it says eligibility category. But because I talked to the state said no, they're not allowed to disregard it. They're not allowed to ignore it. They have to still put it in. They just don't put it in under that section. Okay, whatever. So if it's autism and the child has OHI and speech and language impairment, they have to put the child is categorized under the OHI due to anxiety and ADHD, and the child has a speech and language impairment due to XYZ, but then they put autism at the top. It's the stupidest thing. But everything about special education sometimes can be stupid. Like the thought process of how it's implemented, because it's just frustrating. Okay. That if we just gave it a little bit of thought, just a little bit, then these educators would be thinking outside the box than in this one visioned way, because that's what they're used to. I have more fun doing things that I'm not used to doing. And that's why I love IEP meetings, because not one of them are the same. Not one child's the same. So the more creative, the more diverse, the more different I can travel to in different areas during the day with different families, different children, everything, the more fun I have. Who wants the same old, same old, same old, same old, same old? Which is why so many teachers, as written in evidence, which is I'm going to share with you later on this week, need training and are lacking in knowledge on scientifically based strategies and things that are working and can work for children that is not being done and implemented because of the lack of knowledge in the scientifically based areas of expertise and ways in which how to teach. It doesn't mean it's not a what this teacher can do it, that teacher can't. It's all teachers can do it, but most teachers are not being trained. Biggest problem we have today is so many teachers, like just take literacy. So many teachers are used to a certain way of teaching reading, which is failing our children. It's not working. It's not working. It's not working. If something's not freaking working, change it. Okay? All right. So, more on this later. All right. And I'll get into a little bit of how do you get them other than, hey, let's pull out the checklist. Let's do it. Oh, no, we'll do that later. We don't need to do that. He doesn't qualify. Nope. They do the same thing with the alternative assessment. They don't get funding for that. They get funding for the state assessment, the official state assessment. They don't get funding for the alternative. Yeah. So how can someone accomplish a 504 for a child that is 7th grade? Good grades, but child admits that she has to read something 2 to 3 times to comprehend things. How do you get someone to accomplish a 504? Well, I don't really know what that means, but as far as a student needing to read something 2 or 3 times to comprehend it, then that just goes into an accommodation where they're given the time and the ability to read something as many times as necessary in order to process and then do what it is that they need to do, or being given a accommodation in some way, shape, or form, not just the time, in order to support them in processing that information and it being delivered to them. It could be it's read to them. It could be anything, that would support them in any way. It's different for different children. But I mean, shoot, I have to read something 2 to 3 times sometimes. I can't just read something. I mean, God, if I read IEPs over and over and over and over. So, I mean, to read something 2 or 3 times, that's the norm for me, you know? I have to read something 2 or 3 times to make sure that I process it, to make sure I understood each word correctly. I do the same thing with emails sometimes with school districts because they'll piss me off so much. I have to read them a couple times so I make sure that I read them the way in which they were written in hopes that I don't flip shit on them. So, many of us have to, really read something more than once to be able to retain it. So, all right, guys, have a wonderful evening. All right. Don't forget to follow me on TikTok and post below that you have followed. Okay. The other thing is the winners were chosen for the people who shared in August. So announcements of I already announced it, but I'm going to announce it again in regards to who won the Amazon gift cards. So September is going to be done at the end of the month. When you share this video, go like my TikTok. Then you put here that you shared and liked, and then your name goes into a hat and you can win Amazon gift cards and all kinds of things, whatever it is that I choose to do that month. But it's just a fun way, for me at least, in getting the word out in hopes of just helping one family. And if it helps more, then even better. All right, guys. So I will talk to you soon. And make sure that if you're just listening to the replay, listen to it in spurts because it's long, and post a 1 below if it's your first through third time catching me live, and a 2 below if you're an oldie but goodie. Welcome back. And make sure to tell me where you're from. All right. So it was so good talking with you, Cynthia. If I didn't answer that right, just message me, but hopefully that helped. And to everybody else, thanks so much for joining me. And I hope to see you guys tomorrow. Take care and have a good night.